If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
All new on The More Show. 3 remarkable stories of how they overcome heartbreak and trauma to find love again. Plus, relationship guru Diana Parkinson tells us the recipe to a lasting, loving relationship.
A cuddle is probably the most important thing in any relationship.
Just when you think that you've found the love of your life and start planning your life together, something happens that throws your dreams off course. No one knows that feeling better than Emma Wallace. Emma's hopes and dreams for the future were shattered on the night her fiancé Paul went missing. This is a story of hurt, loneliness, courage, and love.
We just got on like a house on fire. We were very close. It was quite intense. You know, we'd got engaged and we were set to be married. It was great.
On the 27th of October 2004, Emma's fiancé Paul went missing.
He told me one story about where he would be that evening, so I wouldn't miss him until the early hours. And I didn't report him missing until the early morning of the next day. And then the search went out, and then they found his body 2 days later.
Paul's body was found in his car. An inquest discovered that Paul took his own life.
He had depression. I didn't know the degree that he had depression. I didn't find out until after, the funeral, that he had attempted to finish his life before. When we first met, he gave me a book called The Little Prince, and it's by a French author. And the story is a story of friendship and relationships and things. And in the end, he meets a traveller and has this conversation about the journey that he's been on. And he says, "Look, I'm going to look like I die. I need to go. But don't worry." It says, "Don't worry, because I'm not going to leave you. And all you do is look in the sky. All you need to do is look in the sky, and you'll see a star, and I'm going to be up there." It's nothing that people have done wrong. It's just that I'm on a journey, and we met right at the end of that journey. But I will be up there, laughing at you.
Paul left a note to Emma saying, "I'm so sorry." His death has changed Emma, and she fell into depression and had frequent panic attacks. For the next 6 months, she would hide under the bed covers and hope that she would wake up from this nightmare.
It took me about 6 months to even get out of the house. I had agoraphobia, and I couldn't leave, I couldn't go to the shops. I was having panic attacks. After 6 months, I tried to go back to work. I had difficulties with panic attacks at work, but through my colleagues' support and help, I managed to do that.
Her family and friends were there for her throughout and gave Emma all the support she needed to see her through the toughest period of her life.
Strangely, thinking about the times before he went missing, before he died, he actually said to me, "If anything happened to me, I'd want you to be happy and to move on. This wasn't my decision. None of this was my fault. None of this was my decision. It's down to me now to move on and to live," because I realised then that life was so precious.
Well, let's welcome Emma to the show now. We'll take you. Such an honour to have you on, it really is. Take a seat. Take a seat.
Thank you very much.
Well, it was definitely a bit of a journey you went on, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
it was.
But look, but obviously now, where you are,
Yep.
you moved to Cardiff. So just tell us a bit about the process you went through when you moved into Cardiff and what that was like for you.
Well, an opportunity came up with work, and the manager in the Cardiff office had phoned my boss in Sheffield and said, what's Emma doing in Sheffield now, and you know, why is she still there, and would she like to apply for a job that we think is perfect in the Cardiff office? And when my manager came to me and said this opportunity was there, I just jumped at the chance. And
Right.
I don't really remember how I moved.
Yeah.
I don't remember the process at all, but somehow I ended up in Cardiff, and not knowing anyone, didn't know anybody, just...
I mean, that's such a brave move to make. I mean, that's such an amazing thing to do. But do you think for your own happiness
Yeah.
and to move on in this process, that's something that you
Yeah.
had to do?
I had to. I really had to just detach myself from the negativity
Yeah.
that I was feeling, and I'd kind of had enough of feeling that way. So part of the process of healing
Yeah.
was actually, I think that really helped.
You know, that's what I was going to say. Part of the healing process that you had to go through, what was, you know, part of that was moving on.
Yeah,
And,
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, your company was very supportive, wasn't it?
Yeah,
at the time?
very,
I mean, that must
yeah.
have helped a lot.
Yeah, very, yeah. And I couldn't have done it. Both my managers, my current manager and the one I had at the time, they were both amazing and covered lots of things, you know, to sort of help me on the process. And yeah, I couldn't have done it without their support from a work point of view,
No,
definitely.
No. So obviously, moving on, you met someone else, didn't you?
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Because of the fact that I was moving house, my cousin got married roughly when I was moving, and I was invited to the wedding but couldn't go because I had people coming to view my house, and you know, there's lots going on, and I wasn't really in the right place to go. And once I'd moved to Cardiff, my cousin's new wife brought the wedding photographs over.
Right.
And I was just flicking through, and a throwaway comment was, "Oh gosh, you had some rather nice guests at your wedding." Picking out this photograph with Andy in, and she was, "Oh, you know, he's single and no children."
Did you feel ready at that time, though, to move
No.
on? No.
No, not at all. And I did chastise her quite a lot for suggesting the mere thought of us meeting. But actually, about 6 months later, there was a party with my cousin's birthday party, which was fancy dress, and I actually saw him in the flesh there. I recognised him from the photograph.
Right, okay, and that's Andy over there. So, Andy, we've spoken as well, and I mean, what you've done, coming together like this, I mean, you've given each other so much healing. You really have. Did you? I mean, were you looking for a relationship as well, and did you expect it to go the way
I wasn't
it did?
expecting anything, no.
No.
But it was, you know, I think fate, if anything, the way that we met, and the circumstances were both at that moment in time.
Yeah. I mean, do you believe in fate, do you? Is that something that
Yeah, definitely.
what's meant to be is going to be?
Journeys that you go on, experiences that people have, whether they're positive or negative, I think all lead you to the path that you're going to go on anyway. And I think that it's a journey of things happening.
For people out there watching this who are going through a similar issue, and wherever they may be on that path, what advice would you give to them?
I think have faith that things are going to be all right. I think there's an element of needing and wanting things to change. If you're unhappy in a circumstance, or if you've had something happen to you, that it's a lot of it is the belief and the will to actually want to make things better. And whilst there may not be quick fixes or anything, I think the state of mind is really, really important at being able to accept things. There's some things you can't change, there's some things you can change. And I think we get one shot at this life, and I just think we should really, you know, try and make the best of it.
And where did that
can.
willpower come from for you to carry on in a sense?
I just woke up one day thinking, actually, you know, enough already. I either go up or I go down. you know, you get to a crossroads where you think, this is it now, I have to make a choice. So it's
there's
a conscious
two ways
decision.
of dealing with it, isn't there? Either to go towards the light, in a sense, or just... And he wanted you to move on.
Yeah, and he said to me that if anything happened to him, weirdly, the week before he took his life, he actually said to me, if anything happens to me, I want you to be happy and I want you to move on. And I laughed at him and I said, don't be ridiculous. You know, he wouldn't. The pictures would start spinning and, you know, he would there would be some kind of effect. And we had a real joke about that at the time.
And for, you know, I mean, suicide it's one of the hardest, isn't it, in a sense, because there are no explanations, are there? You know? But you did hear from his family, and I mean, am I right from what my producer told me that there was a point where he had attempted to do this before? Yeah,
it was a friend who told my line manager, who represented me when we went to when the inquest took place, and he said afterwards, just tell Emma that he would have done this at any point with anybody. You know, he was on a path to do this. And he didn't want people to know, but he had tried to do it before unsuccessfully. And I didn't know, I didn't have a clue. You just don't have a clue.
But it was your closure though, wasn't it, in a sense?
For me, I think I was lucky in that way. I've been really fortunate in the process to be able to reason with a lot of things in my head, and that was one of the things that I took comfort from.
And it's important, isn't it, to talk about it as well to people?
I've had no problem through the journey of talking to people about, you know, what's happened and the experience that I've been through, and I got a lot of...
Because you've helped other people on this journey, haven't you, as well, just recently?
Well, when I moved to Cardiff, I didn't know anyone, so I had no friends in Cardiff, but apart from the people that I was going to work with on a work basis, but one of the first people that I made friends with was a lady who lost her husband at roughly the same time that I lost Paul. And we started talking, and we just had this understanding that we could see each other in the corridor, just a look or a nod, and we knew exactly where we were at that point in time. And if we needed to cry, we cried. If we didn't, we didn't. If we just needed a hug, then... And talking through, I know that she said to me since that she's got a lot of strength just through being able to express how she's feeling, but without having to explain, because I think sometimes you just don't need to explain stuff.
Well, I just want to thank you for being so brave and coming on today, because I know there'll be people watching this, and that's going to make a difference. So thank you for that. And just to let you know that Andy and Emma are now married, happily, so congratulations. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Stay tuned, and we'll be back for more.
After the break, discover how a young couple overcome serious brain injury and found each other.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.
My next guests are Garrett and Louise Jones. Now, this young couple look just like any one of us. They have dreams of building up their own family, to have a good job, and to lead a fulfilling life. But what makes Louise and Garrett's relationship special is they met through Headway, a brain association, while recovering from their brain injury. Louise Jones was a bright student and graduated from Glamorgan with an MA in mathematics. She had previously worked as a carer and planned on becoming an accountant after her education. But life, however, had a different plan, and just a week after her graduation in July 2007, everything changed for Louise.
It was just an ordinary night when Louise went out drinking and having a good time with her sisters and friends.
We just were out in town, just dancing and drinking. I think I was drinking quite heavily, and then I just wandered off.
That was the last thing she remembers. But her mother, Cheryl, remembered everything.
Went to bed about 11 o'clock, and a couple of hours later there was a knock at the door, and it was a policewoman. I obviously knew then something was wrong, and she came in and she just said, Louise has been in an accident. And I said, is she okay? and she just said, she wouldn't say it, she just said, well, you'll have to come to the hospital.
The policewoman then rushed Cheryl to the hospital. Cheryl was still unaware at that time of the injuries that Louise had sustained.
I think then I knew that it was quite serious, you know. And I saw Louise and she looked like she was dead.
Louise was in a coma for the next 2 weeks. Her mother prayed every night that she would speak to her daughter again.
Just remember thinking she looked like Frankenstein's monster because she was laid out and she had a metal boat going straight through her head to stop to see whether, to measure the swelling on the brain. And all her organs were all switched off and she just had the wires and everything keeping all the organs because they didn't want her to use up any energy from her own, you know, I don't think she could anyway, but everything was being run by the machine. And even though I wanted to go and touch her, I was too afraid to just in case I knocked something, a wire that might make something, you know, might cause a problem. I sort of kept a distance but just looked at her because she just looked so fragile and she you know, she didn't look like she was alive. It was like it wasn't happening, you know, it was quite surreal. It was just like, it's like you're in a dream really, you know. So those 2 weeks just felt like 2 years. It just, every day just seemed so long, you know, just waiting for it to, any signs to show that she was going to wake up, you know.
Her mother's prayer came true. Louise's recovery process was very slow, and it took 5 months before she was allowed to return home.
The recovery then, it just took a long time, and she'd take one step forward and then there'd be something else wrong and she'd pick up a bug or something and be confined to a certain area, and as steps went forward they'd find other problems, so there'd be steps back again. So it was a very long process to getting, you know, anywhere near to how she was before, you know, in being able to walk and remembering things.
I can't actually remember anything for... Because my birthday's in August and this was in July, and I don't remember my birthday of that year. I couldn't see very well. My speech wasn't very good. I couldn't eat either. I had a trachea, so that's how I ate. I was very, very thin.
One thing she did not lose was her willpower. Louise was determined to regain her old life back and began to achieve a lot more than the doctors believed possible.
She always wanted to run before she could walk, you know. It was always things she wanted to do, and all the things they said she couldn't do, she was determined she was going to do, you know, with the riding the bike and swimming, going out on her own, and even though she couldn't see the curb, you know, she wanted to go back into her own life, as much as her own life as it was before, you know, as soon as she could, as soon as possible.
One thing she was unsure and fearful of was, would she find love again?
Kept on saying she wasn't going to meet anyone, and because she felt that people, the boys wouldn't accept her and they'd think there was something wrong with her because of disabilities and things. And I kept on saying, no, you know, you will find someone, there will be someone out there.
I was quite scared actually, because I thought of all my difficulties and all my problems that nobody would be able to cope with me really. If I again have mood swings, who would put up with me? No, I didn't think I'd meet anyone.
Well, Garrett was like any other young man, with aspirations and a talent in music, especially playing the guitar. But this aspiration was snatched away from him when he walked a female friend home just around the corner from where he lived. His family received a call which changed the course of his life and his family life forever.
That night, my husband, my daughter and myself went out, which is something we didn't normally do, but we did. Got in about 10:15. And thought it was a bit odd that Geraint wasn't in, because he was always in at 10 o'clock, always. And we just thought, oh, he was having a nice time and he wouldn't be too long in. So I decided I'd go to bed. I went straight to bed. I was in bed by about 10:30. Then about 11:15, the phone went. My husband answered the phone. Then he shouted up the stairs to me, I think you better come down. The police have just rung. Geraint's been in a bit of a fight and he's in hospital.
Geraint's family rushed to see him at the hospital.
After we were in this room about 20 minutes or so, they then took us to see Geraint, and we didn't recognise him. We only knew him by his tattoos. And then the next thing, we saw them running with him then into intensive care, where they put him onto a life support machine because his throat had swollen so badly he couldn't breathe. And over the period of time, they tried waking him up to see if he could come off this machine, and 3 times they tried it and 3 times they had to put him back on. And they told us they were going to try another time, and they didn't think that it was looking very good. And luckily, he did wake, he could manage, he did wake, and the first thing he did was cry. He started crying and we all cried.
Geraint's family supported him in the hospital every day for the next month and during his slow recovery process.
And each day as we went in, he never knew us. He didn't know us. It took about half an hour before he actually knew we were mum and dad. And once he knew, he used to just raise his arms out, and we'd go to him and he'd just put us to his chest, and we were practically choked because he would just hold us so tight to his chest. He didn't want to leave us go.
I pushed myself. I had to learn to walk again. All the basic things that you take for granted. I had to learn everything again.
After the assault, Geraint never fully recovered physically.
My balance and coordination is all off. My left side of my body is just completely weak. Short-term memory loss. I was getting so depressed. I started drinking, and I was drinking constantly. On times I wish they'd finished the job and just ended my life there and then.
Geraint almost gave up hope for his future and never thought he would ever be with anyone who would fully understand him.
After the assault, I never thought I'd meet someone who'd been through a similar injury as me. And, I thought I'd end up alone and die alone, you know.
Let's just give them a round of applause because they're with us today. Well, that was, very powerful stuff, isn't it? I mean, when you watch that, what do you feel, both of you?
Upset. Very. It's hard.
But things turned around for you both, though, didn't it? That's the incredible part of this journey. Now, you both met through the Brain Injury Association. So just tell us how that happened.
Well, the taxi came to pick me up to go to the Head Start course. We went there, we met everybody, and on the way back, I said to the boys in the taxi with me, I'm going to end up with it. They probably thought I was just having a laugh, but look what happened, we got married.
Yeah. I mean, it's an incredible story. It's such a beautiful story how you found each other. And, I mean, where would you be without each other and the support you give to each other?
I don't know. So where we'd be, to be honest, well, lonely.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, seeing myself in there, I didn't realise how much my left side of my face is affected. And that's quite upsetting.
Yeah. But I suppose, you said this to my producer as well, that you felt that where you are now, you're in a happier place than where you were before.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. How has your life changed for the good then, would you say?
Well, it's given me a good purpose in life. I met someone that I really love.
And that's got to be worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, I mean, out of a bad thing like what happened, came a brilliant thing.
Yes. Yeah. So then, would you really change the clock back in a sense?
Probably not.
No.
I don't think so.
No. Because what you've got now is something that a lot of people would be looking for. And obviously, I mean, you've had the support of your family. and you've had the support of the Brain Injury Association.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just tell us what they do for you in a day-to-day situation.
There's part of Rookwood is the community brain injury team, and they help us with social activities. They take us out like once a month, I think, and we go like bowling and to the cinema and for meals and stuff like that, and it's really nice.
And
Get to meet all people, the people with brain injuries as well, and see how they handle their lives.
Because that's really important. Because I mean, do you think you've just got to get out there sometimes and just be out there with people?
Yeah.
I mean, because would you say the recovery as well? It's always ongoing.
We'll be going through it for the rest of our lives. It's a life sentence, if you will. And well, we'll never be 100% again, but we can always try to improve ourselves.
Get as good as we can.
Yeah. Well, I think just being around you, you're absolutely lovely people. Would you say that your family's always been there, haven't they?
My family have been my rock, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Without them, I would never have got through it.
Yeah. And you know, with brain injuries, I mean, you know, part of my consciousness has definitely been raised, and that's what this show aims to do as well, is to raise the consciousness of people that, you know, like the video said, you are normal, but the injury is inside, isn't it?
It's a hidden injury.
You know, and people don't realise this about the brain injury, do they? Just what it does to people, you know, and you know, the care that you need as well.
Yeah, I don't think we realise sometimes. We just kind of get on with our day-to-day lives, but then I suppose other people would see things that we do as possibly non-normal.
But to you, it's normal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Your day-to-day is just your normal day-to-day, no matter what, you know, you're going to go through. What's one of your hopes, would you say, for the future, for the not too distant future as well, that you'd like to do?
Would like to get into some sort of work, whether it's voluntary or not, just to try and get me back into that aspect of life.
Yeah.
Because it's not very nice being stuck in the house day in, day out, doing nothing.
And as much as you're trying as well, you know, but you're saying that the industry out there doesn't, sometimes you found it difficult to be accepted to just have that chance.
It's whether the employers would want us with our disabilities. I mean, dropping things, I drop things, several things a day, and break things and walk into stuff, and, you know, the employer would have to make sure that everything was out of my way so I didn't trip over it.
Well, I think you're two very inspiring people. You've inspired me, and I know that you've inspired the audience back at home and here as well. And I'm going to follow your story, and I will keep in contact, and I'll see where we are. Not too long. So thank you so much, everyone, and we'll be right back.
After the break, there's always a way to find love second time around, as Jill and Stephen share their remarkable story.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.
Both Jill and Stephen were once married, but lost their partners through illness. They had both led fulfilling lives. Both Stephen and Jill first met on New Year's Day 3 years ago. Let's watch their story.
My late wife developed myeloma, which is a blood cancer, and it could be almost cured because she had a bone marrow transplant in 1991, and within some years it looked as though it had gone away. But the NHS got us 13 extra years, and then it came back with a vengeance. We really had to.
Unfortunately, after a lifelong battle, Stephen's first wife passed away.
Really, the clouds go away in the end, and you live with what is a bereavement, but you live with it, you learn how to live with it. I don't think time heals. The healing takes place slowly and then fast. If you grieve very deeply, that means you loved very deeply, so love is never far away.
With the support of his local church, family members and a counsellor, Stephen slowly learnt to let go of the bereavement and to move on with his life.
You know it was part of your life, it's gone. I accept the grief, I accept, and it's gone. I honour her memory, I remember her.
Jill Dallow met the love of her life, Roger, at the age of 22 while she was still studying.
We were students at university and we met through the Christian Union. We got engaged within the year. It was the month before the wedding that he was diagnosed with cancer, lymphoma, and in those days, some years ago, the chemo was very new, so he didn't have chemo. So we've married, but within 5 months he died.
Jill's first husband passed on while she was just 23 years old, and she has led a single life ever since.
I had to live a long time, you know, very much on my own, which was hard, because I'm not a single person as such. I'm a person who should be married, and so it did matter a lot, really. I wanted to get married again as soon as I could, because it's so lovely being married with somebody you love, and there was no question of being put off. I wanted it more than anything. We had to wait a long time before it did happen again.
Welcome back. I'm joined here with Jill and Stephen. So just tell us how you both met briefly as well, Stephen.
We were at a Christian Guild holiday hotel in St Bravos, beautiful place. And we met, Jill brought her mother, whom she was looking after at the time.
Right.
I had conversations with her mother, sang hymns next to her. But it provoked a friendship between us, which grew.
Yeah.
And I was looking after my mum at the time.
No, I mean, that's a very brave thing as well, because don't we just sometimes just want to, you know, jump into a relationship when it's not quite right, just because we feel lonely? I mean, did you ever experience those thoughts?
I wouldn't say that I was entirely lonely, because it's a very active life in terms of the work that I was doing. But obviously, you have to work out strategies how to cope in these situations. And I certainly knew that I could not consider a relationship with anyone who didn't share the same faith that I have and that Stephen has. We're both Christians, that it just wouldn't work.
So, I mean, how do you know when it feels right then? Because when you've gone through something as tough as you both have, you know, I mean, obviously, individually, your healing was at different periods. But how do you know it's right then to move on?
A number of reasons, really. Obviously, there's a sense that when you're praying for situations that we believe God answers prayer, and there wasn't a great sense of, oh, we've been brought together, oh, how wonderful. I mean, it was a great sense that later on, but it emerged over a period of time, and people noticed this because we have people who pray for us as well, and they were very aware of the situation. And so we just knew that there was no way forward but to commit ourselves to each other.
Yeah. So now you've met each other. How's your life changed, would you say?
Well, I don't, in some ways it hasn't, because I continue in my role as a vicar, and Stephen continues in his role, his music and everything else that you do. But obviously we have the close relationship of being one person, which is what marriage is about. And that's something which I certainly couldn't learn earlier on in my first marriage, because I only married for 5 months, and most of that time Roger was in hospital cancer. But the very fact that, you know, we've come together as a unit, isn't it? You know, we are an item, literally. We are one together.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And Stephen, with yourself then, because I mean, watching that video there, I mean, you know, I felt for you when I was watching that. I mean, has your recovery, have you healed a lot more now? Obviously, you have to be healed, don't you, to be able to move on, I suppose?
Yes, the healing was taking place in God's time, and it's just a sort of history now.
Would you say that your music helped you in the healing process as well?
The music helps everything. Yes.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Not everybody's the same, but.
And what was one piece of advice to, you know, that someone that's watching this show who has gone through, as yourself, you know, a pretty tough time? What advice would you both give to them?
All God is asking us to do is to trust Him, and then you feel the presence. He wants us to take that step.
Well, and
because
yes.
It's not something you can display by total reason. Reason comes into it, of course, but
yeah. So sometimes you've got to just surrender.
You have to take the step yourself to trust.
Well, I think it's more than that as well, that you never know what's going to happen in your life.
Yeah.
And I think one of the greatest thing that we have got from God is we don't know what's going to happen. And I think, therefore, we've got to use every day to the full. Doesn't matter whether you've got a faith or whatever, you have to live your life knowing that your life could end. Yes. The time is precious, and love is precious too. That if you're put in a position where you're given love, whatever's that like, really to cultivate it and to, you know, to regard it in such a very special way. I can see the difference now that the gift of marriage, which God gives, is a wonderful thing. And I have many lovely single friends who have, as yet, who've never had that, have been deprived of that in one sense. I know you have other things, and certainly I did. I mean, I had a very fulfilled life as a single person, but I really want to help those people who've not got that love now.
Well, that's got to be a beautiful thing to do, to be able to help people. Yes. And I would commend anybody that, as long as you're making, it doesn't matter, a difference to just one person's life, you've got to be on the right course in a sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for both
That's
joining
all right.
us today.
It's good to be here.
Very lovely for you to come on. So we'll be right back after the short break.
Coming up, Diana Parkinson shares her recipe for a successful relationship.
And a cuddle is probably the most important thing in any relationship.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.
Diana Parkinson has successfully treated people's emotional problems for almost 30 years. She uses a unique combination of psychotherapy and hypnotherapy to help people change their lifestyle for the better. Her focus is on the importance of love and relationships, and for each person to discover and enjoy their own natural gifts and abilities. The fact is that all of us are capable of so much more than we realise. Diana, it's great to have you on the show.
It's lovely to be here.
Weren't some of those stories initially very, very difficult, weren't they? And just amazing at the same time.
Very, I mean, incredibly moving, I have to say. Very moving. I don't know how many of us had dry eyes, actually. I think particularly Louise and Geraint, sorry, what you've both gone through, you know, is, you know,
it's just incredible.
Amazing, you know, and hopefully it'll get better and better and better. And it's wonderful that you have each other and your families. And also, Emma, your story and how you've got Andy now, which is lovely. And then your love story too. So it's nice to be with all this love, really.
It is. And sometimes we get so lost, don't we, in our own story, that if we're suffering from relationship problems as such, or we've lost someone in bereavement, we just need to talk about it first.
Well, I think too, the thing is that all of us probably, I think we all get a bit complacent and a bit lazy and don't appreciate what we do have, you know, the wonderful relationships that we do have. And it's actually valuing both ourselves and other people much more, and just enjoying and living absolutely every day, and learning something every day, because actually every experience, however awful, however devastating, we have to take something positive out of it, otherwise we're wasting our lives, aren't we? I mean, that isn't to say, you know, what you've experienced has been horrendous, you know, and lots of people wouldn't survive as well. You know, we are all different in our ability to survive, but there is so much help out there nowadays of all different kinds of help.
What's the first stage, do you think, when we've gone through something terrible, in sort of healing ourselves? What do we do first?
Well, it depends what's happened. I mean, it depends if you're talking about when there's been actually a brain injury where we need to be looked after in hospital, we need good nursing and good medical help. But we also, of course, need the emotional help as well. You know, help on all levels, and it's just being able to access that. I think when we look at something such as, Emma, when you were describing Paul, this thing that when people are suffering mentally with mental illness, it's that often the person looks all right and seems all right, and of course they're not. And they don't know how to ask for help. They blame themselves. There's a whole inner dialogue going on that no one ever knows about, because I think I think the person usually seems to feel ashamed of how they are.
Yeah.
And you know.
And even the most happiest people sometimes can be hiding that deep darkness.
Absolutely. I mean, I once had a situation where someone came to see me. I opened my door and there's this big, jolly, smiley man on my doorstep who comes into my consulting room and has his whole suicide plan absolutely worked. I mean, this is the plan, not just the thoughts. So, you know, we cannot tell what's going on inside someone. That's why we need to connect with one another, you know, which is back to the love bit.
Which is back to what this, you know, this show is doing, you know, connecting people through the stories that we're sharing here. You know, we're not on our own. You're never on your own.
No,
we're all connected in a way.
But people often, I mean, the sad thing is that people can feel on their own. And I think it is that if we can just go out and spread that and just let one another know that we are here, that we do care about one another. Often we're so afraid of our own emotion. It's like, I think, particularly watching Louise and Geraint, your story was very moving. But, you know, most of us feel embarrassed if we cry, and we've really got to just get over it, you know? I mean, we laugh, that's all right. Why isn't it all right to cry? And so we don't go to someone because we're afraid of our emotion, which is very selfish.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, you know, what if we have got a partner, yet, you know, we don't feel that we can, you know, why don't we actually, you know, sometimes just open up to our spouse? Is it just difficult for people to do that?
Well, I think the thing is, that something I was talking about last week, that when we first meet someone, and I'm sure most of you have experienced this, we fall in love and we're talking in a very intimate way, and we you know, we share with one another all sorts of thoughts and feelings and desires, and we seem to do that quite freely. We then get into the relationship and life moves on, and somehow we kind of separate in a way, and we no longer share in that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I mean, to, you know, as well, is to know that we can find love again. You know, no matter what we go through. But do you think some people don't want to find love? They say they do, but actually they don't.
I think that probably that's not right. I think that for many people, they're so hurt that they're terrified to love again, because you can't love without risk. I mean, there is no way, you know, if we fall in love and get married to this person we love, one of us will die before the other. I mean, there is going to be heartbreak somewhere. And I've read a quotation somewhere, and I wrote it down. I can't remember where it came from, but I quote it so many times to people I work with. And it is, accept that to reach the heights of happiness, you must first allow yourself to be vulnerable to pain. And I think so many of us are terrified, so terrified of being hurt, we build a wall around us, which of course can keep people away, because sometimes, you know, we're doing it, protecting ourselves so much that people don't want to come near us.
But do you think the first step of you know, having someone else love us is to love ourselves?
Yes, oh, totally, absolutely. I mean, and I know we've probably in Britain feel a bit uncomfortable with this.
Well, we don't use this word,
no.
do we, often?
So just approve of yourself. But really it is, because it's about loving, nourishing yourself, loving yourself, you know, which is about truth. It's about everything that's good. That means you value yourself, then you will naturally value all life, you know, people, everything. You will value everything. I mean, love is everything that's good.
Love is everything, isn't it? Yeah, and you know, I think as well, if sometimes, you know, we could just do that a bit more to us and each other.
I think we should all go out from here with just love. It's very simple, you know, and it works.
Yeah. And what would you say some practical steps, you know, for people that have gone through a hard time and need to start loving themselves again to move on?
I think if, you know, there is a lot of help out there nowadays. I mean, there is much more help available. You just go on the internet. There are all sorts of organisations like Headway. I mean, there are many organisations. There are all sorts of therapists out there. There's, you know, different churches. It's whatever you feel comfortable with.
Whatever works for you, isn't it?
Yes, but do go and do engage, because, you know, we benefit and we are enriched just by connecting with another person.
Yes.
And the love is about truth, it's about openness, it's about honesty. And it is perhaps, you know, we need to be more honest with one another. Obviously, I mean, in a kind way.
But then it's that ego part of us that gets in the way sometimes.
Risk. It's that it's a risk.
You know,
is that what you mean?
Well, sometimes, you know, it's that part where, you know, the ego which, you know, which stops us from doing lots of things, I believe.
Yes, but that probably Yes, I mean, that's a vanity, isn't it?
Yeah, the vanity part, yeah.
Which, you know, but that's, I think it's to do with the fear, and probably more, that we're all a bit scared because we go to school and learn to read and write, and we don't really learn how to have relationships. And if it doesn't work, we blame ourselves. I must be bad, it must be my fault, rather than, you know, perhaps being kind to oneself and understanding, now, why is this not working? And also getting help to make it work, or to at least understand why it would work, and so then free oneself up to move on.
Should we have expectations in relationships, do you think?
Well, yes and no, probably. I mean, expectations of being loved, but it depends what you mean by expectation.
Dating's changed, hasn't it, in a sense?
Yes.
You know, there's so many expectations when you go to these new dating sites nowadays,
Actually,
for example.
you've raised a very important point, because nowadays, so much dating happens through the internet because of the way that people's lives are, the hours they work and so on. It's really hard to meet someone unless you're, you know, when you're at school or college or something like that, you know, or if you work somewhere where there are plenty of people to choose from, you might be lucky. But otherwise, it's really hard. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with using these dating sites. I just say, you know, use them and be careful. But a lot of people, again, feel there's a stigma about them, when actually, no. I mean, as long as you approach it carefully and arrange to meet, you know, in a safe place in the daytime for a coffee or something like that, let people know where you're going. It's, I think, a very acceptable way of meeting someone now. And I've had clients who've, you know, met, fallen in love and married and now got children. So, you know, it really can work. But what I have noticed is this expectation thing, and it's really worrying. And I think because when we want to fall in love, we often project onto someone what we want, we don't see the actual person. And the other thing is that I've noticed that people go on a date and they expect to know on that first date if this is Miss or Mr. Right. And I've had it where people have got really upset because then they've had this text to say, well, I just didn't feel that real spark. You know, when it has, I mean, it may be that there just would never be one, but it seems people are expecting, they go on the dating site, I will know instantly that this is the person I'm going to marry or not.
Yeah. And do you think once we get married, you know, our expectations change in each other, do you think, or...?
I think it will depend, obviously, from relationship to relationship. I think it's the thing that perhaps we can become complacent, you know, this thing of, you know, we meet and fall in love, and really I think it's trying to keep that going. It shouldn't be hard work. I mean, it shouldn't be like you're going to the coalface every day. There's no point in a relationship.
Sure.
But it should be that you're connected, and you know, that you talk to one another, that you're kind to one another, that you know, there's so much we pick up from one another without words.
Yeah, so that's an important... So what advice would you give to couples out there, just to, you know, to sort of sustain the relationship? I mean, what's the common things for you, would you say?
I think one of the hardest things is, love is about setting free, and I think most of us have a huge difficulty in doing that because we get frightened of losing the person. But it's about having a freedom within the marriage. Now, that doesn't mean freedom to have other partners. It means that you can enjoy your partner, perhaps exploring a new interest or something that you don't necessarily want to do yourself. You know, you're not cloned. It's about bringing new things into the relationship as well. But it's about being together and sharing. Just love. I mean, love is everything that's good.
Yeah, it's unconditional as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. But it's the taking time for one another, you know, that perhaps vacuuming is not as important as having a cuddle, and a cuddle is probably the most important thing in any relationship.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
For more information, go to themoreshow.co.uk, and don't forget you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter to get the latest updates on the shows. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Thank you very much for that. So I'm going to take that now. Thank you. Thank you. That was excellent.
Don't forget you can also hear The Moore Show Late Night Talk on various FM stations across the UK. Check the Moore Show website for station listings.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The Moore Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.